Another week of the SEC on CBS brings another heated rivalry. This time, the Magnolia Bowl. LSU battles Ole Miss with Death Valley playing host. The Rebels have not won in Baton Rouge since 2008. They did come awfully close the last time they played in Tiger Stadium, but Keyshawn Butte had other plans. Touchdown, Tigers! And the bad news for Ole Miss, Butte is still wearing the purple and gold. But this year's matchup is a massive game for both programs, albeit for different reasons. Lane Kiffin's high-flying Rebels have hopes of crashing the college football playoff, an accomplishment that would see both him and his swagger forever immortalized in Oxford. But for that to even remain a remote possibility, he knows his team must take care of business in Baton Rouge.
We played really well on the road. Obviously, this is a different animal, and it'll be very challenging.
On the other side, Brian Kelly is still working to gain the trust of the Louisiana faithful in his first year running LSU's program. But that task got a whole lot easier with wins now against two rivals, Auburn and most recently, Florida.
Excited to be at home. I know our guys want to play well at home before our home fans.
Les Miles famously dubs Tiger Stadium the place where opponents' dreams come to die after an upset win of then number 3 and undefeated Ole Miss back in 2014. Does that sound familiar? So, will history repeat itself? Or can the Lane train keep rolling? It's another College Football Saturday, live from Death Valley on CBS.
Let's welcome in SEC on CBS sideline reporter, our good friend, Jenny Dell. Jenny, we're going to talk about Saturday, Ole Miss at LSU, but first, we need a welfare check because on social media on Saturday, there was a lot of concern for your well-being, being in the middle of all of those Tennessee fans. Are you okay? Like, you came away unscathed. We're good here.
I am good. It was a little scary, honestly. I stayed right by my camera crew and I had a security guard and I knew that I had to get to Coach Heupel like ASAP or that I was going to lose him. And after that interview, my producer said, all right, well, we need to get Jalen Hyatt. And I said, I don't even see any players. He was like, just get off the field. Just be safe because this is just a dangerous situation now. So I got off the field right to watch right in front of me the goalposts coming down with all the fans. It was wild.
Well, and thankfully, it didn't come down on top of your head, so that's good. And you got the cigars. It was great. Okay, so let's talk about Saturday. Maybe we'll see a scene like that. Probably not, because that was one for the record books. Ole Miss at LSU. Ole Miss going into this one undefeated. I think it's like the best start to their season since 1960 or something like that. But talk about this Ole Miss Rebels offense because it's very versatile. I mean, one week you see it on the ground, the next week you see it in the air. Is that the key to this offense right now?
I think it is. And you look at their numbers, they had 578 total yards against Auburn, 591 against Vanderbilt the week before. And they have just been clicking on all cylinders. And what's working for them is something different each week. So even Jackson Dart came out and he said, we're sticking to what's working. So they couldn't stop our running game last week. And we put it on our O-line shoulders and we were able to find success in our rushing attack. And then the week before, it was all through the air. So Lane Kiffin even came out and he said, I'm so confident in this offense because each game, every week, it's just independent. Every game, we have a different plan. And it just shows that we're so versatile in our offense. And I feel like that's what's making this run so well.
So a lot of focus on the offense, though, but this defense doesn't need to be overlooked either.
No, absolutely not. And you look at that game, and I think when people kind of look at their schedule so far, it's really that Kentucky game that people have zoned in on as where there was a little bit of a challenge, which is why they're about to go into a really tough stretch of their season. But their defense put them in that game and ultimately got them the win in the fourth quarter. And they were exposed a little bit in last week's game against Auburn. Now, safety A.J. Finley, he said that their play calling has been much more aggressive this season. And when Brian Kelly was asked about the Ole Miss D, he said it's hard to know exactly where they're going to line up all the time. So our guys just have to be on it. Our quarterback has to slide the right way. Our backs, they have to go coast to coast in some of the read progressions there. They know they have a challenge ahead of them with this Ole Miss defense. So that's, the biggest thing for them, I feel like, is going to be taking care of the football.
Let's talk about this LSU offense we're going to see on Saturday. You have General Booty, and it's Booty at Oklahoma there.
Booty.
And then, yes, we have Keyshawn Booty. You were telling me this is exactly how you say it, emphasis on the boo. But he hadn't had this season, and he's coming off some injuries and stuff like that anybody had really expected up until thus far. However, the last game, we're starting to see that connection with him and Daniels. I mean, how special is that for this LSU offense?
It's something that they've been working on, since the start of the season. And you really got to finally see them find some success last week. He didn't have more than 42 receiving yards in a game until last week, and then he comes out and has 115 against Florida. Brian Kelly said that Jaden Daniels, and Booty have been working really hard in practice, trying to build up that relationship. In last week's game, they finally found each other, which sounds kind of like a romance novel in some way. But they made some big plays. And Kelly said, I think this was the first time all year that our best players really stepped up to that level. But something to keep an eye on. LSU has looked for Booty much more on first and second down, more than they have on third and fourth down. So just something to watch out for when we're looking at this upcoming game.
Football is romantic down in Baton Rouge.
It is.
I mean,
right?
you add a side of gumbo or jambalaya or something like that. That's a full-blown romance novel. Okay, so Ole Miss coming into this undefeated. They're 7-0 right now. LSU 5-2, first season under Brian Kelly. If they were to get the win on Saturday, how big would that be for this LSU Tigers team?
I mean, I think it's going to be huge. There's a lot of challenging games coming up on this schedule, and something that we need to point out is it's homecoming for LSU. So it's going to be a fun one. They've won 4 straight homecoming games, 20 of their last 21, and they're looking to avoid consecutive home losses for just the second time in the last 21 years. So Brian Kelly said one thing about this team, though, is they never give up. He referenced last week's win. He said, there's that saying in golf that there's no picture on the scorecard. It's just what you score, if you win or if you lose. So they've won 6 straight at home against Ole Miss. So the numbers clearly on their side, but a win against an undefeated team, I mean, that definitely helps. And the SEC is so open right now that, any win against a ranked team is going to just skyrocket you.
You and I have been friends for 3 years. And I don't know, have you done a game at Tiger Stadium yet?
No, I'm so excited. I've just heard all about it. No, this is my first.
Please bring me back some food from a tailgate. That is on my bucket list, is like an LSU tailgate just for the food. Okay, Ole Miss, they're looking at their first 8-0 start since 1962. How confident are they that they can get this done in a very tough atmosphere?
I think it's interesting when you kind of look at Ole Miss and their season as a whole. There's almost been so much focus on what Tennessee is doing that I feel like Ole Miss and the SEC is kind of just like flown under the radar a little bit. So I feel like this is going to be one of those statement games where if they can come out and they can come out strong in a really tough environment, it might help their program as far as the fans' view go. I know the ranking committee, they're obviously looking at what they're doing each and every week. But like you said, they have an opportunity to go 8-0 for the first time since 1962. That was also the last time that they won a national championship there. And you look at this team, 45% of this Rebels roster are newcomers. This is their first season at Ole Miss. So they've really put together such a talented squad. And you mentioned the atmosphere and the energy that's going to be going on there. Lane Kiffin said, and we heard it before with Chip Patterson, he said, our guys have played so well on the road. Obviously, LSU is a different animal. So our guys, they need to stay focused and just feed into the crowd noise and try and find some success there. So their offense is on fire right now. Their defense just needs to contain Jaden Daniels. And if that happens, I feel like Ole Miss is going to be the winner of this game.
I like that message. And a lot of great players will tell you, look, I almost like road games more than home games because I feed off that energy. I hope you can feed on some very good Cajun food. Just please bring me back some. I'm so hungry right now. Jenny Dell, safe travels down to Baton Rouge. We can't wait to watch you on the sideline there. Good luck. Stay safe. Hopefully we won't see the same scene as we saw when it came to Tennessee there. The SEC on CBS, number 7, the Ole Miss Rebels, undefeated right now. 7-0, traveling to LSU Saturday, 3:30 Eastern on CBS. You can also catch it on Paramount+. Welcome back into CBS Sports HQ, presented by Capital One. The SEC on CBS headed to Baton Rouge on Saturday. I thought I was going to do a Cajun accent, realized I can't do one. Undefeated Ole Miss will look to go 8-0 for the first time since 1962. Keep in mind that was the last time they won a national championship. But it is not the Lane Train and the Rebels who are favored in this one. Rather, Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers, just barely by 1.5. LSU 4-2 so far in Brian Kelly's first year there down south. Let's welcome in the guys behind the Cover 3 podcast. We got Chip Patterson, Barrett, Sallee for the Magnolia Bowl. This is my blooming magnolia there. I'm not going to do that ever again. Let's talk about keys for an Ole Miss win to upset LSU. Even though they're undefeated, LSU's unranked. It is LSU favored by about 1.5 right now. Chip, let's start with you. What does Ole Miss need to do to get the win?
Well, Ole Miss has an incredibly versatile running game. You know, they are the #1 team that is not a service academy in terms of rushing yards per game. That's number 3 among all FBS teams. And what they do is they use a lot of different backs. They use a lot of different motions, a lot of different looks. And what it does is it keeps the opposing defense on their heels. And so when you've got a team like LSU that has good pass rushers, players that want to get into the backfield, good speed, you want to keep LSU on their heels with that versatility. So, number 2, talking about Ole Miss's defense, a group that I think is very underrated and overlooked. They need to be able to contain Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels had 6 total touchdowns in that win against Florida. You want to make sure that you, especially on 3rd down, keep him in the pocket, keep him from getting those easy yards to move the sticks along. And then finally, splash plays. Mississippi is tied for 2nd nationally in terms of the most amount of plays of 30-plus yards this season, and I think that they are going to need those to take the air out of that stadium. Tiger Stadium, as we know, Les Miles called it the place where opponents' dreams come to die. He said that in 2014 after who'd they beat? Oh, yeah, then undefeated Ole Miss, popping the bubble for that 2014 Rebels team. So make that stadium a place that is not going to be a negative impact on you. Splash plays, something Ole Miss is already very good at. That's a great way to do it.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And Chip, you touched on how they run the ball. They need to run the dang ball. And when they feel like they get stopped, keep running it some more. You mentioned how successful they've been on the ground. It's incredible how diverse they've been on the ground. Quinshawn Judkins has been one of the best surprises and best running backs in the SEC, but it's not just him. It's Zach Evans, who transferred from TCU, former 5-star, and then it's Jackson Dart. Look, Jackson Dart as a passer, he's not what Matt Corral is. As a runner, he's better than Matt Corral. And Lane Kiffin's offense, whether we always say, well, he's a passing genius. No, he's not. Well, he is, but his offenses are always founded in the running game, and they've done a great job of that. They need to continue to do that. Also, tackles for loss, chaos plays. Ole Miss, it's not the old Ole Miss defense. This is a new Ole Miss defense. Yeah, they gave up yards. Yeah, they gave up points. They did it against Auburn last week, but they still made chaos in the backfield. Those tackles for loss are going to be key because LSU's offense is not going to be one that can consistently convert 3rd and 10, 3rd and 7. That's just not how they operate. And then Jackson Dart, the quarterback for Ole Miss, needs to stay composed. I mean, this is the most hostile atmosphere he's ever been in, and Lane Kiffin on Wednesday said that he feels comfortable, but there is a little bit of concern because Jackson Dart simply hasn't done this before. But one thing that he does do well is he always makes the right decisions on those zone reads. And that's a very underrated value of any quarterback in a system like this. So he's going to have to complete some passes, there's no doubt. But getting him back into that comfort zone quickly, I think, is something that Ole Miss is going to have to do.
Both of you mentioning that Ole Miss defense being overlooked, 3rd best in the SEC right now. Let's talk about LSU to get the win. They're at home. They are slightly favored in this game. We were talking to Jenny Dell. She says they're really excited. Jayden Daniels, Kayshon Boutte finally found that rhythm in the last game. Barrett, what else does LSU need to do to get the win here?
Jayden Daniels and not only Kayshon Boutte, but everybody else on that roster have to get into a groove too. I mean, look, the last 2 weeks for Jayden Daniels, 300 yards passing, 346 last weekend against Florida, and he had the 6 touchdowns. The best passing performance by far at LSU, and one of the best passing performances he's had in his career, whether it be at LSU and Arizona State. They have to be able to take the top off of defense when it's appropriate. They can run the football. Jayden can run the football effectively. They can get creative, but they're still going to have to get those chunk plays. And I think that's the biggest thing for that LSU defense. If they can just keep those safeties from LSU honest, then I think they're going to be sitting pretty. And then keep the defense simple, right? You have to make sure that you have everybody's assignment under control. They have to know where they're going to be on every given play because Ole Miss, they create chaos offensively. They have eye candy all over the place. You have to maintain eye discipline, and the way to do that against a team like this is to keep the defense very, very simple. And the last thing, slow the tempo down offensively. Don't get into a situation when you're running plays after 10 or 12 seconds clicks off the play clock. You need to be able to slow it down. You have to realize, if you're Brian Kelly, okay, my defense might be a little gassed. Let's make sure they stay on the sideline for a little while. If they can do that, then look, you're not going to control the tempo against Ole Miss. You're just not. But at least have moments where you understand, hey, let's throttle down a little bit in order to play a full 4 quarters and be able to stay in this game if it does turn into a shootout.
Oh, let me build right off my tag team partner because you want a slow tempo and long drives. That is right. Yep. You want to give this LSU defense a chance to catch their breath. The Ole Miss tempo can really turn the game sideways. And like we mentioned, if you want to, keep the explosive plays limited, if you want to be able to keep them from getting into that rhythm, you can do a lot of that with your offense. You can do it with the ground game. But to me, most importantly, you do it by winning on third down. And so far, Jane Daniels has been pretty good on third down. He's been making the right decisions. He's been sometimes getting it done with his legs. Winning on third down is so important because of what it's going to do for your offense, yes, but also for what it's going to do for your defense and keeping Ole Miss's offense from getting into any kind of rhythm. Number 2, Kayshon Boutte has to have an impact. Jenny mentioned earlier that it was so great to see him finally, for the first time this season, go for over 100 yards. Ole Miss has lost its last 6 in Death Valley. They thought they had a win 2 years ago. Then here comes Kayshon Boutte ripping their heart out. He needs to free the nightmares once again here as we are entering spooky season. And finally, the place where opponents' dreams come to die, the Death Valley advantage has to be there. I think we did not get to see this when Tennessee came in for 2 reasons. Number 1, we saw that was a noon Eastern time, 11 local kickoff. That's a little bit earlier than the way that the LSU faithful would like to have it. Now we are right at the appropriate 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 local kickoff that gives them enough time to get properly fired up for the game. And then I also think that we got to see Tennessee get off to a fast start in that game. They have to learn their lessons and avoid that. You want this crowd to be absolutely sideways, band playing neck, place going nuts for key downs when you get into the 3rd and 4th quarter. So that has got to be a factor if LSU is going to win.
Chip, I feel like you just called out all of the LSU fans for not really showing up against Tennessee. So you're giving them more time to get ready.
Yeah, and LSU, the team, for falling behind early. It's tough if all of a sudden you find yourself in a deficit. So that's got to be LSU as a team giving the fans an opportunity to have a difference, make a difference in the second half by keeping it close or building out a lead.
All right, all that rolled into one. Let's get your pick on this game. So you have number 7, Ole Miss, undefeated, going for 8-0 against LSU. LSU 1.5 favorite at home. The total 66 in this one. Chip, we'll start with you. What's your play?
I'm going to attack the total, and I'm going to go under. I think that between LSU's method of winning this game by trying to play some ball control, trying to run the ball a little bit, use a slower tempo, and then even though Ole Miss plays at a breakneck pace, they run the ball, which means that unless it's a first down, that clock is going to continue to roll. So with that, I just think that we're going to end up going below the total. It's respect for Ole Miss defense, which I think has been fantastic this year. I mean, yes, there was a shootout against Auburn, but there was also a 22-19 result against Kentucky. Explosive offense, sure, but it's possible that this goes low scoring, so I'll take the under.
I'll grab Ole Miss. I'll take those points. I won't need them because I think they win by 10 points or more. I think this is an Ole Miss team. When you can dictate tempo, you're going to win a lot of games. And right now, I just think they're going to get LSU into a shootout. And LSU is not built to play and win in those games. And I think maybe there's a little bit of an overreaction. Chip mentioned Ole Miss's defense. I think there's an overreaction to what we saw last week. It's like, oh, here we go again. Ole Miss's defense not playing well. No, that for the most part, they've played all right all year. And maybe we're overreacting a little bit to LSU's offense and specifically Jaden Daniels. So I think those two things are at play. But I think in general, Ole Miss is a much better football team. I think they're a college football playoff contender, and I think they'll show it against LSU in Death Valley.
Ole Miss on top of the SEC West right now. We'll see if they can stay there. Guys, thank you so much. Again, Barrett going with Ole Miss to win outright. Chip likes the under in that. You can find both of them on the Cover 3 podcast. A couple episodes recapping Week 7, taking a look ahead to Week 8. Also, what if college football had a trade deadline? Make sure to download and follow. And the SEC on CBS. Check it out. It is going to be a scene in Death Valley. In Baton Rouge, Ole Miss traveling for the Magnolia Bowl, Saturday, 3:30 Eastern. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.